the PNM are unable to do our job, and we will give you a tax credit. That has not worked, it will not work, and the PNM does not work. The national insurance is collapsing because for 8 years they could not do the mathematics. They simply wanted to put a failed friend of the finance minister in charge of NIB, Mortgage Finance Company, and the Home Mortgage Bank, the new Calder Heart, and the NIB and the national insurance is collapsing because of the high unemployment. But yet we are regaled here during the budget to say that a 6-month late lag information from CSO is saying we are at the highest employment levels ever, full employment levels of 3.7%, abject total nonsense. If you live in this country and you talk to the people and you see the pain, over 123,000 people have come off the NIB rolls. Where are they gone? Is Massey Communications discussing with them? That's what they pay in the US for? Where are those people? So the failed finance bill, this finance bill is past the buck because PNM can't solve a problem. They exacerbate problems and they come here today to tell us that they are problems. They are problems because the PNM cannot solve problems. They create problems. Problems that did not exist now exist, and existing problems get worse. That is the PNM policy. We also see, when we sat here to debate recently, I stated that the PNM put all the eggs in the dragon gas basket because the Honorable Minister of Energy came here and regaled us about 2016, the trillions of TCF in cross-border gas and Venezuelan gas between Dragon and Lauren Manatee, and all the work that he and his government put in from 2016, 2017, up to 2020. We were supposed to be getting that gas. We got no gas. The only gas we got was from poverty. We couldn't eat, and we get gas pain in our belly because they did nothing. And now they come here in this bill, in clause 5, to try and encourage on-land fields that have been decimated and production is going down, and they're coming to encourage now when it is too late, when they have done nothing, when they did not maintain. We are now at the lowest oil production in our history. The Honorable Minister of Finance said he researched and saw that we in Trinidad and Tobago started to commercially benefit from oil in 1920s. Well, me ain't know what research he did, because we started to commercially benefit from oil in 1908. So I tell him to read again and come again. And this is the worst in our history of 115 years of being in the energy sector. The PNM has decimated the sector, leading to a foreign exchange crisis. They did not listen to the Solomon report, the Lashley report, the McKinsey report. They did not take the advice of the then Minister of Energy, Oliveri. They did not take the advice of the then Petrotrin board not to shut down Petrotrin, but of their own volition, of the Prime Minister and member for Dago Martin West. They shut down Petrotrin on false, flawed rationale, claiming that that people, the maids and the tea ladies, were making exorbitant salaries and therefore it was a drain on the treasury. Not true. The numbers show that the Petrotrin was making upwards of $2 billion US per year to add to our foreign exchange pool. And since the closure of Petrotrin, the foreign exchange crisis has been exacerbated. This has also led to a collapse in the energy and gas sector. The Ryder Scott report shows diminishing reserves, possible, probable, and proven. We are flat on gas and diminishing. So that's why they put all this effort in Dragon. But now in a 57-minute press conference, the Honorable Prime Minister, who boasted for 8 years that this was his egg, this was his legacy, spoke about Dragon gas for 22 seconds. Well, that has some problems and it's going on. But we were told and we were boasted upon, and editorials were telling us, oh, how great thou art, Dragon gas is coming. The Dragon is not dancing. There is no gas. They have renegotiated an Atlantic LNG equity scale and a Chinese company that left 5%. The other shareholders give Trinidad and Tobago 5%, and these PNM come to pound the table and say, great, we are. 2024 October, we might get something, and in 2027, we might get something if we find gas. But there is no gas. They've collapsed the sector. NGC made a loss for the first time in 2019 after a failed negotiation of the PNM in 2017, led by the Honorable Prime Minister and member for Diego Martin West and the member, the now Minister of Energy. They caused a total collapse at Point Lisas. In 2014, Point Lisas was up at 74% capacity. Point Lisas now is at 28% capacity. 11 companies have shut down and gone. Foreign direct investment has been at a negative for 3 or 4 years since 2019, excluding COVID-19. And we have no foreign exchange. So when we come here today to see in a newspaper in The Guardian, and this is not a funny thing, I saw members of the PNM laughing. Well, I am in such shock because I am not one to believe in them thing. But when I see that the leader of the PNM believed in it, so much so that he made a speech, and I quote 2011, I quote on the platform.
So, Senator.
So I can't quote the speech?
Senator, have a seat.
You see?
So I'm following, and now you've gone past what is in the bill before us. You're on Clause 5, that's where you started.
Yes.
Dealing with what Clause 5 speaks to in relation to the energy sector. I've allowed a little leeway for you to generate your context in relation to the point that you're making about that, but now you're going past what is required. Therefore, it's irrelevant. I would ask you to move on.
President, I am so guided and so pleased that your ascension to the President, and I would take your advice immediately and I move on to Clause 4.1. And this Clause 4.1 of this bill tries to amend, or seems to amend, or wants to amend, or purports to amend the Corporation Tax Act. In Section 3A.2, by inserting a new paragraph, H, which seeks to exempt manufacturing companies whose gross receipts fall within the 30% tax bracket from business levy charges in respect of only export sales. Why only export sales, Mr. President? This Clause 4.1 is to try to encourage foreign and exchange accumulation, opening up and encouraging manufacturers to sell goods outside so that we can earn foreign exchange, US dollars, because of the crisis that we find ourselves in because of the policies of the PNM that have brought us here. So, Honorable President, when I read today's front page of The Guardian and I see a major corporation spending hundreds of thousands of US dollars on a training program which included learning and trying to contact the dead and speaking with the dead, when I get reports and calls from citizens across the board. One lady called me last year and said, Senator, I need $1,500 to visit my daughter in Delaware, but the banks are only giving me $50 per day. I would like to pay $23,000 for 50. I said, stop, ma'am. Do not do that. If the banks are giving you $50 US per day, ma'am, go to the bank 30 days consecutively and get your $1,500 US. When we saw during COVID that 6,000 SMEs closed down and employees averaging 4 per SME were out of work, and right now, there are another, as January hits, another 6,000 to 8,000 small and micro enterprises are due to close down because of the lack of foreign exchange. It is a critical situation. When a citizen gives me a letter from First Citizens Bank, when he requested 100,000 US to pay his suppliers, and First Citizens Bank, our beautiful, brilliant, amazing bank that was Workers' Bank, and we are so proud of it, tells the customer, and I have the letter, that we cannot give you access even though you have the money to purchase your US. What we can do is give you a loan. loan of 100,000 US at 9%, basically extorting the situation of the crisis that exists because of the PNM. So it's unavailable for you to just get it, but they could lend you it at 9% over a 6-month period. That's where we are. When a major businessman calls me and says his credit, his 90-day credit limit is gone, that he requires 150,000 US to pay suppliers from 90 days ago, and the bank sends him $15,000 and asks him if he's all right. And he said, well, how could I be all right? It's 135,000 short. When Republic Bank in the last 2.5 years cuts down credit cards in US denomination by 70%, we are in a crisis. So when I open my newspaper today and I see that a corporation was alerted by a former central bank governor. We have to link everything here. We did not reach here by guess. Our former central bank governor was removed because he disseminated information in 2016 about the allocation of foreign exchange. Now we are seeing in 2023 critical crisis. We also, when I read this, and Mr. President, you're talking, this is not from the senator from the UNC. This is from a high executive management member in one of the major corporations in Trinidad and Tobago who took advantage of, well, not took advantage, or was forced to go into it and utilize US dollars, she said, per person in the tens of thousands.
Point of order. Standing Order 53-1B. 53-1.
Okay, so raise is one of tedious repetition. And as much as you're speaking to what you read in the papers this morning, and you're making that point has been made. You've used several examples in relation to foreign exchange and the fact that there's a crisis and so forth. Finish off your point, move forward.
No problem, Mr. President. I am trying to form the base. I don't like you to stand up and do squats here. You wanted me to link it to the bill. The bill is coming here to encourage people to get foreign exchange, manufacturers to sell, so much so that they don't even understand by encouraging our manufacturers to sell externally, they are going to put pressures right here internally where people are already suffering, where $100 in 2014 can only buy you $68 now worth of goods, where people go in the grocery with $100 and come out with a paper bag with 2 buns and a sausage. This is a very critical. So I am taking my time to form the basis of the point that I am making, because with the situation is that all the citizens out there, a minister, the Honorable Minister of Tourism, a very intelligent human being, sat here and berated the citizens about those who would send their children outside to university not knowing where and where they'll get US from, that they were not thinking properly. This is a very serious situation. So when children cannot get US to study abroad, but a corporation that was noted by a former central bank governor could get so much foreign exchange that them could waste it on talking to the dead. This needs to be discussed here, and it's not a joke. This is not a joke, and those who think it is funny, I am not laughing. I would want to laugh at something so ridiculous. But when an honorable prime minister, when he was leader of the opposition, said, and I quote, that someone put me out of the cabinet. I live and born in Mason Hall, close to Lake Oto. And do you see what happened to him when he put me out of there?
Mr.
Now I see Massey talking to the dead. I'm very worried.
Mr. President, point of order. This has been rehashed by Senator Mark already. Standing Order 53-1B.
So again, Senator Roberts, you've made that point earlier in your contribution, tried to. I raised it and indicated it was not relevant. That line that you're now going down, you've made the point in relation to what you've read in the papers front page this morning. You've added several examples as to why it's valid, which is all well and good. So I'm asking you now to move off of that point and move on to another clause in the bill.
Thank you. Mr. President, let them don't get scared, because I am scared. Because to link it further to the clauses that we are here to deal with, 150,000, 150% of 500,000 up to give help in education. When crime is spiraling out of control, there's an evil that pervades the society. Children are dying in inordinate numbers from bullets and murderous victims. We are so scared in this country, people are not even going out. So when you have a situation where we are discussing connections that I do not understand, I was not brought up so, I do not fathom, but clearly people in the PNM believe in that, and now the whole country is suffering from a darkness and an evil, and the Prime Minister says...
No. Senator Roberts, again.
We're not suffering from
that,
evil.
No, stop. That inference isn't allowed, period. So I'll ask you to just refrain from using it and make your points. You are speaking about clauses in the bill, you're calling the clause number, speaking to it, and making your examples of the points that you're trying to make. But that further inference is what is not allowed.
Thank you, Mr. I leave it for the population to decide. But I personally see a causal link. But I now quote from the Honorable Prime Minister. I won't show it, but I'll quote from it, because it's the Honorable Prime Minister, the member for Diego Martin West, who is saying that crime is costing Trinidad and Tobago millions. He is the Prime Minister. He's in charge 8 years. When he came in, the murder rate was 389. Now the murder rate last year was 608. We are already at 553. The gold and silver medals of his government, 2019 was 539 murders. And now the Prime Minister is saying crime is costing Trinidad and Tobago millions. Crime is costing Trinidad and Tobago millions of dollars, says Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley. And this is from the Express, Saturday Express, 16 December, page 7. He said it was the government's hope that spending more money on community programs such as these, which was a pool, $11 million pool opened up with 25 meters by 15, 1.2 meters deep, which value is about 1.7 million. But they spent 11 million, but crime is costing TNT millions. The Honorable Prime Minister said that the utilization of this pool will lead to a reduction in crime and by extension result in less money being spent on courthouses and the Privy Council. And Privy Council, foreign exchange, Privy Council, pounds, foreign exchange, very scarce, crime situation out of hand. We come here to look at Clause 5 to try and get more oil, to encourage people to drill more. The Honorable Minister of Finance said that our aged infrastructure, and we in the business so long, that the on-land wells would suffer to get oil out. But yet in 2016, in this very Senate and this Parliament, in this House, we heard the PNM government boasting about a certain company that increased their on-land oil production by 1,000%. They put it on the record from 3,000 barrels to 15,000 per day, and yet it didn't hit them as weird that we hit the infrastructure all. You need all kind of fancy technology to get it out. But just so it was coming out, flowing out, and exacerbated, they didn't see that as weird. But somebody has benefited to the tune of $118 million and more land worth $960 million over 10 years. But that situation leads us here to a finance bill, which is a pass-the-buck bill. You see, everything is connected here. We are here today on a Tuesday, while cricket playing in a stadium that was budgeted at $175 million and finished at $1.3 billion, and the PNM would not even allow us to go and watch a game, one of 4 games for the year, in the $1.3 billion full of corruption stadium. And that is the problem that we have. They have no clue, they have no plan, and they proceed to create chaos and corruption. While we are seeing, the Honorable Prime Minister says crime is costing the country millions. And during a Christmas season, we see that citizens are so hard pressed for funds that they are willing to be scammed at Court's mega store to try and get goods and furniture for half price and end up dead on the floor in the car park looking for furniture. That's where we reach. The English cricket team is on high alert because murder outside the window. And we have a Minister of Tourism here who is telling us that we want to increase our revenue streams where the whole world has options to holiday. When they Google Trinidad and Tobago, they see PNM, they see blood, they see mayhem, they see murder, they see drive-by, they see AR-15. And today the Honorable Minister of Finance came to say that the ports are closed down and the ports slow because under what the PNM is amazing at doing, they come and tell you about a problem that exists that get worse and pretend them are not in charge, you know. The PNM in charge, one of the members of Tobago said, we in charge and we in your face like a jumbie from Lekoto. Or they forget that, we must remember that. They come here and talk about there's so no security in bonds that guns and ammunition could come in, you know. I thought it was FUL of legitimate gun license holders was causing crime. Now you're talking about the port. The whole country suffering. Businesses shutting down. People paying demurrage that they have to pay and add on to the prices of Christmas shoppers because the port is in a state of collapse. And the Honorable Minister of Finance comes to tell us that the Revenue Authority will come to save this when he knows full well that in most of those bonds, number one, for the last 8 months, they've been firing the younger BIR customs officers and hiring retirees.
Senator Roberts, you're beginning to respond to
the minister?
A whole other part of the order paper that was dealt with in relation to the urgent questions I've answered this morning. We're dealing with a debate. We're on to the debate section of today's proceedings, which is the bill. You're contributing, but as you're contributing, you're broadening the scope of the debate, which is what can't happen. So again, I'm going to ask you to tighten it and come back to the bill before us.
Mr. President, but you will forgive me because I respect you very much. The Honorable Minister of Finance answered the question, urgent question, but in his debate, he alluded to that also. Because he said, and I quote, it was very quiet. We don't need sometimes to tell people everything because it's national security. In his 40-minute presentation, he brought back that port situation. So that's what I'm responding to. It was on his mind from the Honorable Senator Mark's urgent question, and he brought it into the debate to show that part and parcel of what they need to improve the security and cyber security, he made an analogy with the port situation and so on, and said that this is why we need the Revenue Authority, which will save us and bring us into the new age and get us revenue than this finance bill. So that's what I'm dealing with. But we also see that the Honorable Prime Minister said crime is costing us millions. And I just read a little article from page 18, quite in page 18, hidden in the Newsday. It's a very interesting article. Sunday, December 17th. 4 illegal quarrying suspects to appear in Sangre Grande Court. 4 men are expected to appear before a Sangre Grande magistrate on Tuesday, facing charges of illegal quarrying after police operations at an area known as 5 Acres Vega de Oropuch, Sangre Grande on December 2nd. The accused, all employees of Presticon and Warner Construction, are charged before the court.
What?
But the Honorable Prime Minister says, crime costing us millions. Now this is a very serious thing, because Warner Construction, on record here in the Red House, the Honorable Prime Minister said, that is my friend and that is my former business partner. He was business partner back in Landate, for those who would know, I won't go into details, in a sheep farm.
Senator Roberts, Senator Roberts, have a seat. Again, too broad, way too broad.
Thank you, sir.
I'm really going to have to ask you, seriously, to focus on the bill that is before us. Right now, you're on crime. And been on crime for a couple minutes. So come off crime and all of that. Get back to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. I would love to come off crime. The only way we can get off of crime is to get the PNM from there over here, and so we can handle the problem, because they can't handle it. And the Prime Minister that says that crime is costing us millions. And if there are no millions to serve the people, it's because they have allowed crime to get out of hand. And that's why we are here with a finance bill, trying to encourage public sector to do their work for them, trying to give tax breaks for public sector to invest in education, trying to get tax breaks for private sector to protect themselves against cyber attack and so on, because the PNM has admitted and confessed to their incompetence. They must call an election and come out and they let somebody else who have a little brain handle the situation.
Contract with TSCT, PNM must go.
Now the Honorable Minister of Finance, well, he sold out himself, because today he said he spoke to many people, but all of them seem to only have money. Federation Park, Woodbrook, 20,000 rent. He ain't talk to nobody down on the ground. You know, he ain't talk to no double vendor. He ain't talk to the nuts man. He ain't talk to the CPEP worker, you know. He come here and say, well, I talked to Fed Park and so on. And he attacked these people. And he said, and he actually said that when they said that they cannot get 20,000 rent for their houses, that they were untrue, that was not true. Well, that's a problem. Because anybody who lives in Trinidad and Tobago over the last 8 years knows that the real estate market has dried up and crashed. That the places down in West Moorings, those high-rise things that I don't like, because
no expatriates.
My mouth big, sir, so I don't want to live so close to people and so on. But this 8,000 US and so on was the going rate in 2014 for one of these things. And you would see over 2017, 2019, they dropped down to half price, 4,000 and so on. People, the energy sector has collapsed. The people who were propping up those high rental values of 20,000 a month and so on were working in the oil and gas sector that the PNM has decimated. Yes. So I take umbrage to the Minister of Finance coming in the Senate to attack citizens and calling them, telling them, I will never use the wrong words, saying that they were telling untruths when they were talking the truth. And he is just out of touch and out of time and out of time. And that's why the PNM must be removed, because to attack citizens like that is totally unfortunate. The PNM is also coming here and trying to convince people, never mind nothing works, never mind their policies bring pain, that they're coming to take more money out your pocket, but there's so much. That's their point. Never mind your bus, your tire. Just this on the highway in Diego Martin, everybody knows 4 cars over the weekend. Just so you're on a highway going down smooth, you feel you're cruising. One big sharp pothole in this direct place where your left tire will go. At least 3 ladies on the edge of the road. 2 tires bust and rim dent. Who paying them back for that? And that's just Diego Martin. Diego Martin is the constituency of the Honorable Prime Minister, the Honorable Acting Prime Minister, and the Honorable, I don't know what he is. But that is what happened in Diego Martin. So what about the people in Library? What about Point 14? What about Barrackpaw and Coover? What about Princestown? The entire place is in a mess, and the Honorable Minister of Finance is coming here, want to attack citizens wrongfully, because anybody who is aware knows that the PNM has collapsed the real estate market also, that people are running away from here. The reason they can renegotiate Atlantic train and so on, because people don't want it. The Honorable Prime Minister come to tell us that these energy companies, all of a sudden, they have a heart. They are charities. They are serve all. Them come to serve people. All over the world, they take and they take from countries that have left developing countries in poverty. All of a sudden in Trinidad, they have a heart.
They go on Guyana now.
And then the Honorable Minister said he's going to define deferral for us, as if we need his intellect. The day I need his intellect is when I come down from 5'10.5" to something shorter. I don't need his assistance in understanding deferral. Deferral, he said, well, elderly people who cannot afford his property tax, it will be deferred until, for in perpetuity, whatever he said, until they're dead, right? So 20 years, deferral. And then, miraculously, all these elderly people will have a rich lawyer daughter. Really? They have so many? That's what his argument was. That when the tax accumulates and is deferred, when the unfortunate event occurs and elderly people pass on, that whoever is left to inherit the property will have to pay every last cent. And his justification is that the child go be rich. Where is he living? What fantasy world does that Honorable Minister of Finance live in to come in this Senate and talk that kind of nonsense? There are people out there, the middle class has been decimated. Since 2015, it is costing the middle class between 40,000 and 80,000 extra annually to have a PNM Prime Minister rather than a UNC Prime Minister. Whether it is the removal of the fuel subsidy, the lack of gate to pay for your children's education, the lack of laptop, all of a sudden the PNM talking about, hey, we go finance laptop and get laptop. They're the government that said laptop, no laptop.
Senator, you have 5 more minutes.
Thank you, Honorable President. And then, en passant, the Minister of Finance slips in. Well, all corporations, UNC and PNM, they could collect the tax, but only residential. What does that mean? Commercial, industrial, the big money people. The PNM is a government for the rich, and the rich must get richer. They come here and they say it openly now. You come in there and you just say only residential. You say it quiet, you know. Just slip it in. What did Douglas don't miss that?
But expand on that.
Honorable, I need another hour. But Honorable President, let me just tell you, this bill, this finance bill, at the end of the year 2023, at the end of the year 2023, the priorities of the PNM are here. All they talk about crime. They want to handle crime. No, nothing about crime. They were nothing about increasing the 4% paltry, ridiculous 8-year nonsense that people are getting. They come to call a $4,000 for a 4-year period, 5-year period. They call that a lump sum. They really defining lump. A lump sum is when you're in the cabinet and you rent a building for $23 million. That lump sum. When you get $38 million to outfit your own building, that is a lump sum. You come to tell citizens $4,000 a lump sum. You know, one tire bus day, what a lady was driving an Audi Q7. One tire is $4,000. She lump sum gone under the PNM. But when you hear, and the best analysis and description of a failed government is when you keep an article. I wouldn't show it. Sorry, I don't mean to show it. I'm showing you.
This is the third time I've asked you not to brandish.
All right, no problem.
Just be careful.
All right. I take offense to the word brandish, though, sir, especially in this crime climate. I'm not brandishing the paper, but I humbly apologize. It was a reflex. But I'd just like to show the truth. This is an article from January. We'll hold it lower. Sunday, January 7th, 2023. Prime Minister Keith Christopher Rowley says 2023 will be better. Well, boy, I'm not going to go through all 10, but I'll just give you some of what he said will happen in 2023. We are here at the end with a finance bill, and nothing here is discussed here at the beginning of 2023. The Honorable Prime Minister said we are expecting to have the heritage and its associates make a greater effort in oil production. They went down. They come now at the end of 2023 to give a little tax incentive, hoping that man go and pump oil. We are the Phoenix Park Industrial Estate, which will be a major initiative. We heard last week in the Senate, out of 80 possible places, they get 18. That's their major The last time I checked, if my child get 18 out of 80, I'll have to have a serious discussion with her about her scores in mathematics. The PNM said for 2023, the non-oil sector, the encouragement of the manufacturing sector is going well. And in the new year, we'll have much more to say about that. Nothing to say, failing, come in here to now say that they're going to give some incentive to try and sell more exports, to get more foreign exchange because they decimate the entire non-oil sector and energy sector. The PNM has collapsed just like what they said would happen. None of these things have happened. It will not happen. The only thing that will happen positive in the future is when the PNM calls the election and we could move them from there, Obiaman and all, and put a real government in place with real solutions. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Timal.